It's an article from the New York Times. It's actually an op-ed piece, but by Richard Nisbet, and he is a professor of psychology at the University of Michigan. He's the author of Intelligence and How to Get It, Why Schools and Cultures Count. And what he did was he relayed some of the experiments that were done on race and testing, academic testing. And the results are amazing. Now, the final thing I'm going to tell you about is how Obama's election affected these results. But first, let's start with some elementary things. Blacks and Hispanics usually test worse than whites if they're in control groups, if there are no other factors, if they're told nothing before the test, right? In fact, if they are reminded of their race before the test begins, blacks and Hispanics do worse. Now, that's a really sad commentary on the stereotypes that exist in the country and that exist actually within our own mindsets. So if you ask people what race they are before they take the test, blacks and Hispanics do worse. Now, you can flip this, though. So they did a number of experiments. Just telling students that their intelligence is under their own control improves their effort on schoolwork and performance. Now, that is not related to race. That's true for everybody. Now, if you tell everybody, look, it's not how smart you are, it's how hard you work, it turns out the test scores for everybody improves. So, number one, that's amazing. You should do that with your own kids. All right, now we get into some of the experiments done with black and Hispanic students. This one is from junior high school students. And what this person, Mr. Arison, did in his experiment was he told the students how the brain works, explaining that the students possess the ability, if they worked hard, to make themselves smarter. This erased up to half of the difference between minority and white achievement levels. Just telling the kids, if you work harder, you can become smarter, erased half the difference before they even worked harder. And if they actually did work harder, I'm sure that would erase the whole difference. They might even do better. But just armed with that knowledge, they did better instantly. Okay, now, so that's amazing how the brain works, but I got more for you. In Detroit, social psychologists at the University of Michigan asked inner-city junior high school children what kind of future they would like to have, what difficulties they anticipate along the way, how they might deal with them, and which of their friends would be most helpful in coping. In other words, they had them do life planning. When they did the life planning, the difference between white scores and black scores and Hispanic scores were almost wiped out completely, and the number who were required to repeat a grade dropped by more than half. So, again, an amazing psychological phenomenon. Something that wiped out 30% of the difference that existed between black and white students at an experiment at the University of Colorado was simply asking students, what are your most important values? They just asked them what their values are. The kids explained them or wrote them down, and then they do better afterwards in the test. These are all amazing things that we can learn a lot from. And one last one from Northeastern University. They did a control group of how minorities normally react at Northeastern and the GPA that they get and the results they get. And then they did an experiment where they had a survey showing, and they gave it to the minority students at Northeastern University, and the survey showed them the most upperclassmen had once worried about feeling accepted, but had ultimately come to feel at home on campus. So it's just something that very simple that was reassuring to them, saying, hey, look, everybody feels a little out of place at first, but then you settle in. All right, now, as the New York Times explains here, black students who were given this information reported that they worked harder on their schoolwork than others did, contacted their professors more. The payoff and grade point average erased most of the usual difference between blacks and whites in the university. All right, all this is amazing, but now we get to the granddaddy. This study is still unpublished, but apparently Professor Nisbet knows about it, and he talked about it in this New York Times piece. Researchers did a study where they asked African Americans to take comprehension questions from the verbal sections of the GREs. That's the Graduate Record Examinations. And they did that right before and after the presidential election. The black participants who were tested before the vote performed worse than whites. Those tested immediately after the election scored almost as well as whites. So you get that? Before the election of Barack Obama, blacks don't do as well as on the GRE test as whites do. After the election, it's nearly even. So now what does that show you? No, it doesn't show you that Barack Obama has magically changed the world. Okay? And that he snapped his fingers and all of a sudden African Americans did better in tests. It shows you it's all mental. And and this is why people are obsessed with giving kids confidence. Because there's some sense behind it. There's some logic behind it. Because if you tell kids, hey, it's not how smart you were born or how good or bad you are, according to the stereotypes that exist in the world, it's if you work harder, you do better, and you give them confidence, they do better. They do better instantly. Let alone the fact that over the long term, of course, with those proper values, they are going to work harder. They're going to get a better GPA, as happened in Northeastern University, and they're going to get much better test scores in the long run. But in the short term, there's an instant effect. I find that absolutely amazing.